Hello everyone, it's a Sunday, nothing much to do in Morlaix, Bretagne. So I am recording a podcast, I guess. And today we have a topic that I really look forward to talking about because I think it's just one of these standard coaches, YouTube advice topics that people have on their own podcast, on their front page. And I'm gonna give you a little bit of a different perspective on this topic. How can we call it? And it's such clickbait as well. What do all successful creators have in common? What do they all have in common so that you can copy it and be just like them? What is the secret to being successful on Instagram, YouTube, and the kindergarten, TikTok? And then, in contrast to these clickbaity titles, I mean, sometimes they just go into that, they're serious about it and oh yeah, let's talk about what it is that Gary Vee does or some other billionaire. I mean, some unrealistic person that you have nothing in common with. Let's just look how they made their billions because that is applicable to you. Because you, as a person with the 9-to-5 job and 3 subscribers, can relate to some unrealistic, unique figure that is also 30 years older than you or something like that. Sure, let's make it about that. Yeah. That's the one type of video, and the contrast to that is no, let's not do that. Let's be realistic. It's all just consistency and being real and being authentic and putting in the work, but not hustle too much. It's only those two, and there's nothing in between. And to me, one is just common sense. Yeah, I'm not going to work on YouTube super crazy, treat it like a 9-to-5 and be burning out within 3 months. But I'm also not gonna be like Gary Vee and copy his stupid morning routine and have books in my garage or something. Personally, I don't really sympathize with the guy. He strikes me as a weirdo. But if you like Gary Vee, all the power to you. I think it's a waste of money to concentrate on what billionaires do, because your chance of becoming a self-made something is just so ridiculously low. Just look at the statistics and look at what your realistic chance of becoming anything really is. To be frank, having a 9-to-5 job is a very good chance at being able to afford a car and a house. It's not like it's this disgusting thing that you have to do and prostitute yourself for this economy and sell yourself and your brain and your body for this disgusting, horrible economy that gives you nothing, not even health insurance. Well, come to Germany, we have free health insurance. Basically free. I mean, your employer has to pay for it and you have to pay a little bit for it, but you don't really notice because everybody else has to too. And it's mandatory and it's part of having a job. Then you will also pay for health insurance and have it and be fine and not have to worry about huge hospital bills. Even if you didn't have health insurance, hospital bills wouldn't be that huge here. So we're not shitting on 9-to-5s today, although I'm not the biggest fan of them. I've worked enough 9-to-5 jobs myself to know. But I also think that it's just a very, very legit thing to do before you do anything on YouTube. I mean, you need to make the time to film YouTube videos, but that's not impossible if you don't have kids. And even if you have kids, the thing that you need to really do it is discipline. Which brings me to the first thing that all the successful influencers have in common and what probably helped them become successful, and that is overcoming being master procrastinators. I think a lot of them actually have this issue, but they addressed it at some point in their journey and they worked themselves out of the mud. And I also think that the one thing, if it's not discipline, the one thing that all of them really have in common is being just fucking insane. Being driven, being absolutely focused on this thing that they want. Wanting it so badly that it's a little bit sick. I think that is actually it. And I got to that point when I was talking to my husband on the dinner table, and we were like, hey, I'm watching these videos, listening to these podcasts, while I'm taking a shit, and they're always like, what do all the successful creators have in common? The discipline, focusing on their work, learning, blah blah blah, taking 2,000 euro courses. No, that's not it. And I was like, you know what I think the one thing is they all have in common? And he say like, they're crazy. And I say, yeah. Exactly. So if you're not a little crazy, what are you doing on YouTube? YouTube is not for boring people. The viewers, they can afford to be boring. You have to be quirky, crazy, and different. You have to be a shining unicorn to make it on YouTube. And maybe not a unicorn because unicorns are so 2020. I mean, my 4-year-old is into unicorns and glitter. Like, that's not for you. So, let's go through my list. I have a huge list here on my Fairphone. Shameless plug. If you want bad audio on your phone calls, get a Fairphone. Anyway, like Fairphone, if you want to sponsor this podcast, just, you know how to reach me. So maybe the Fairphone 4 is better. I have the 3. So what are the things that these creative, successful people do? What do they have in common? And what are actually things that you can do if you are an unsuccessful, boring little YouTuber like me? Because this podcast is about taking you on my journey of becoming a creator, an influencer, whatever you want to call it, and growing on YouTube and my other platforms and sharing what I learn real time with you, honest and without the fluff and without me being in a position that I have already 100,000 subscribers, 500,000 subscribers, and I'm like so far away from this perspective. I don't want to do that when I get there. And I didn't say if, I said when on purpose here. So, because I'm cocky. I'm feeling cocky today. Anyway, so first point is they have a buddy who helps them film. Let's look at Peter McKinnon and who he's hanging out with. And I think he's been doing that from the start. When you listen to his old episodes, to podcasts he's invited to, or his friends are invited to, they're always talking about how they are hanging out and taking their big fat cars to some epic place in Canada, and then they all jump out of the car. They're all in a super awesome good mood, even if it's pissing, and then they film these epic drone shots and wide angle shots and gimbal shots. I have a gimbal too. I can only recommend it. If you have the money to afford a gimbal and you want to film some landscape out and about stuff, you need a gimbal. It's not like it's a mandatory thing. I regret so much that I didn't buy it on day one. And I also think there should be like an option for small cameras. But right now I don't think there is like a really good option. So they're all still kind of bulky and heavy, or you have these built-in solutions like a 2-in-1 camera and gimbal, which I'm not a fan of because I'm a fan of switching lenses. But anyway, apart from having a gimbal and awesome gear, which is also a part of becoming successful, because, you know, why are movies not filmed on iPhones? Why are successful creators not still filming on their iPhones? If iPhones are so awesome, ever ask yourself that? Why is not everything filmed on a phone if phones are so good and you can just start on your phone? I would go the other way around and say, why would you start on your phone if you can afford a camera? If you can afford a camera and you want to be a YouTuber, then buy a camera, a real one, like a mirrorless good camera, like not the cheapest, maybe not something that is like advertised towards vloggers, you know, because that seems like a trap, but something cool, like something that is seems like a decent camera for both photos and videos, because you want to shoot nice pictures maybe for your blog, your website, or for your thumbnails, you know, that kind of thing. I always like when it can do both in a decent way, but it's not too specialized, and with a focus on video. If it doesn't do epic photos, that's alright. I have a DSLR, which I never bring, so it's actually not alright. Get it? Anyway, all these successful guys, all they have apart from epic equipment, which they can afford after blowing up, and you can afford because you stayed in your 9 to 5, so you can buy some nice equipment and get started right away in a professional setup. Apart from that, all they have in common is a buddy that helps them film, that holds their camera and actually knows how to film. So teach your husband or wife or non-binary spouse how to hold a camera, right? What can you teach them? In 5 minutes, keep the thing level, so activate the grid or the indicator, the level indicator on your camera. Keep it level. Don't cut off my feed. Don't cut off my head. Don't have me in the center. Maybe have me like on the side. Try different angles. Teach them how to do it with, I don't know, an object like your cat, your kid, or a seagull on the beach, or some lifeless object if they're really a slow learner, so they don't have to, follow it with the camera too much and can just try out different angles. Then another trick that always works pretty well, if you have like the object plane and the camera plane, you want them to be parallel. Like if it's a wall of a building, you want to take a photo of it, and here's your camera. To the people who are listening on audio only, so you have a wall that you want to shoot, and you have your camera. Your camera plane should be parallel to this wall. And if you tilt your camera, it'll make the lines in the video askew and looking tilted and giving it a perspective that is not flattering usually, especially in architecture, but also not in humans and interior shots. So that is the first thing your buddy who helps you film has to learn, not to tilt all the time just because they don't have the right cutout of the scene that you want to film. So if you don't have the right frame, just move towards it or away from it instead of tilting your camera. Tilting always makes it look like a tourist photo. There are times when you want to tilt your camera and not have it parallel to the object plane, but usually just think of how humans work, right? You are not walking around with your head tilted unless you're looking at the sky or something that is really high up. If you want to empathize on that, you can do that as an artistic method. Other than that, usually just common sense. The plane of your two eyeballs, built-in camera in your skull, is parallel to the walls around you. Everything is parallel to each other. We're not building askew, tilted houses. We're building houses straight up, and we're looking at it that way usually. When do we tilt our heads? When we cannot reach something, when we're looking for something. But that is the same way you should use your camera, looking at something like a human being, because that will make the perspective make sense, make it more natural. I'm having my cold morning coffee again. So hot in here. And I shut one of the windows for you guys, so the audio is not messed up too much. Anyway, about this buddy thing, I think this is one of the hardest thing, because even me, and I'm filming a lot, and I also know other creators, but I never get the chutzpah to ask them, I never find it in my heart to say, hey, can you help me filming? Because I feel like I should pay them to do that. If you have a partner or a good friend that will help you for free, that's gold. At least buy them a coffee, right? I don't know. I can't find it in my heart to ask my fellow creators. I have a hiking buddy who helped me with filming, which is really nice. But the thing is that if you have somebody who comes with you filming you, you cannot really criticize them. Maybe some YouTube coach out there might disagree and be like, yeah, just teach them and just go with fellow creators and give each other feedback. Nobody does that in real life. We're all introverts here, so let's be honest with each other. Do you feel comfortable telling somebody who's helping you for free to do a better job? That is idiotic. That's completely dumb. I don't know. I would not do that, and I would consider it rude. And I'm usually, with my social skills, people usually tell me that I'm a little bit rude. And, so I wouldn't want to be more rude by doing something that is obviously dumb. But if you have a film buddy who's also into filming and who's open to that feedback, and you film together and help each other out, maybe you go on a hike or on a city tour together and you film each other, so it's like you're kind of even, that is perfect. If you find that, dude, more than a coffee, cake, dinner, okay? That's what you buy your buddy, right? Next point. What do the successful influencers do? They learn from others without taking a hit to their ego. Oh yeah, what I meant by that is that they basically overcome their ego and accept that they're not doing a good job when they're not doing it. As in doing some introspection, being honest about what you create, and looking at your creations like half a year later and be like, oh, that was crap. And I know it. And I'm still making this mistake. Just being honest with yourself. And I know this is such a no-brainer, but it's true. And we all are in love with our content. We are looking at our videos and thinking, wow, this is such a good video. Why don't people like it? But would you watch it? Would you watch it? Don't you watch more high-end content? Do you like more high-definition content than your own videos? Then why are your videos not like that? You should do a better job then. Well, my next point is being outgoing and extroverted, or introverted but highly intelligent and knowledgeable and just awesome at their craft. Yeah, being an introvert is hard. If you don't want to be in front of a camera, you have to find a way around that. As in a way, an interesting creator who does this is Benita Larsson. She always just films B-roll of her minimalist apartment and how she's cleaning up and stuff like that, and doing a voiceover, which is very candid and seems chill and relaxing. But she is not talking to the camera, probably because she's not comfortable with that. If you are like that, you have to film epic B-roll, or at least if it's not epic, then good quality. And by epic, I mean like amazing landscape shots that make people want to be there in the scenery and come with you and buy a van right now and just leave their country and start over, like invoking those feelings. If you can't manage that with your B-roll, then at least it has to be good quality. Because maybe there are people who like have it in them, and maybe there are people who feel like that about some minimalist stuff. But I have a minimal apartment, so when I look at my own apartment usually in the morning, I'm like, yeah, looks nice, but I'm not overwhelmed and want to go out and buy a designer lamp just because I see it on some YouTube video. It doesn't touch me like a beautiful landscape would. But maybe that's the way it is for some people. I doubt it, and I think if it is like that for you, you should start hiking and get a life, but that's your problem. That's not a me problem. So being extroverted definitely helps. Behaving like you're an extrovert when you're actually an introvert, I don't believe that that's healthy. You know, you can look at some videos online by introverts, or people that I think are introverts, that talk to the camera but keep it minimal. For instance, a beautiful channel is Erik Normark. This is such an amazing hiking and outdoors channel. I love that channel so much. He's such a cool guy and always like minimal with his words and his gear. So amazing channel. But if you are truly an extrovert, as in a people person that does not feel exhausted when they come back from a party, and you like to socialize and you like to talk to people, not just like to talk. I like to talk, but I don't like to be around a lot of people, and I really was so scared of filming stuff in public and vlogging. And for me, this is still very hard. But what I do now to overcome that when I am out filming is that I just take a lot of gear with me, because gear kind of exposes you as a pro or a semi-pro. Like, people generally don't often see people with tripods and gimbals running around their city. And when they see that, they immediately assume that you're doing something more or less professional, or that you're at least serious about what you are doing. So they won't get in your way that much, which I don't demand at all of people in the public. They are in the public, it's their space as much as it is mine. But I think that if you are filming in a more professionally looking way, that already gives you kind of, how to call this, street credit maybe with other people outside. That helps a lot, because then they already expect that you will do something like film yourself, talk to the camera, and it becomes more expected and more normal, and it's less staring, maybe more like, oh, interesting, oh, that's cool, looks, you know? And that feels more comfortable to me. Maybe you can try it and tell me if it's the same for you. For me, just having a vlog camera, for instance, in the beginning felt very weird. But now, since I have my bigger Sony Alpha and a huge mic with one of these fluffy mic wigs attached, I don't say dead cat. Cats should not be dead. Fuck you, Schrödinger. So with one of these mic wigs attached, it looks pretty pro. And that kind of helps me to feel less like a stupid noob. And, you know, cover that noobishness up a little bit. Ooh, but now what's next point? Oh yeah, that's uncomfortable. Having a laid back and chill personality. Oh yes, something you might not be able to change about yourself, right? Your personality, can you change that? I don't know. Do you want to change it for YouTube? I personally don't. I want to change my personality for myself if I don't like it. And YouTube is certainly inspiring to me, as in when I see others be nice, decent humans, I want to be a nice, decent human too. And I think like, hey, what are they doing to be so nice and decent? Let's copy that. And this is probably the most psychopath thing I've ever admitted online. But it's true. How can you not learn from amazing people? And how can you not watch somebody who seems like a nice guy and think like, I want to be a nice guy? Isn't that more sick? Anyway, so I think that a lot of people that have a huge following are just super relatable because they're being nice, decent humans. And if you see them do good things without bragging about them or humble bragging, oh, I hate humble bragging. Like this one TikToker who was always like giving people flowers or some awkward shit. I don't get it. I don't get the hype with that. It's so fake. I don't know. Why? Why would you film your good deeds and expose yourself as being such a do-gooder? I don't know. How about in a soup kitchen, feature the soup kitchen and show the people there and have honest conversations and be authentic? Oh, that's work. That's more work than these prankish setup dumb videos? Oh, don't you say. Well then, gotta do the dumb videos, right? So I wrote down, being creative and disciplined. You cannot be the always drunk, smoking, and high artist if you want to be successful on YouTube. That's why I put a plus here. Yeah. Creative plus disciplined. And discipline, by my definition, is the ability to do something even though you are not motivated to do it. It can come from routine or from having learned discipline as a child, which is the best way to be disciplined because, you know, if you just grew up to be a disciplined person and check on yourself and be like, hey, did I do my stuff today? That is the best way. And if you haven't learned that, well, then you have to learn it. Because otherwise it's going to be very hard. If you're a master procrastinator and you're just doing a YouTube video whenever, you're not going to be successful. Unless you're super amazing and have a huge support network that is basically doing everything for you, which is unlikely, you're not going to make it. And I think that sometimes the problem with that is also if you have too much perfectionism, you're keeping yourself from trying new things. And for instance, your camera setup, you think like, oh, it's not perfect, lighting is not perfect. I mean, I think the lighting can easily be 99%. You don't have to do 100. But if you are struggling with that so much that when like even there's a little mistake and you're getting upset over it and you don't want to do it anymore, if you're devastated by the 1%, then that is the other extreme, all right? But truly, you cannot be in the position that even putting up your setup is making you not do it. You have to come up with the discipline. I recommend doing it early in the morning if you can. You have to come up with the discipline to just get started. Just get started. Just get that camera gear out there and get started. For me, it's packing my backpack because I'm filming a lot outside usually, not in this setup. This is just because I really don't care about how the vlog looks, how the podcast looks on YouTube, because it's a podcast. It's not supposed to be pretty. No, I do not care. First 2 episodes, awful lighting, because I was sitting in a basically dark room with no lights, just a candle or something. I don't know. It was really bad. So the first 2 episodes look like shit. But it's a podcast for the ears, not for the eyes. Anyway, what I think is about this discipline thing, what you can do is lower your standards to something that you can reach but still serves your perfectionism. Like for me, I would not film if I could not bring a certain amount of my gear, like a tripod or something. So I would get a handheld tripod, small little mini travel tripod, and use that as a selfie stick for my big camera, because you cannot use a selfie stick. It's just too wobbly and too long. You cannot really use that with a huge camera. And that helped me to just use that camera more. I could put it up on surfaces. It wasn't perfect, but it was really good compared to what I did before that, which was just doing handheld shots all the time. If you can make it easier and less of a hurdle for you to just start, do whatever it takes to do that. And that also means like just packing your backpack for filming the day before. Not the night before, the day before you go out. Just packing a backpack really helps me. Always. And if it is like a dedicated photo backpack that you just use for getting outside and having all your gear in there, and I'm not talking about a specific Löwe backpack with these little fluffy cushiony parts that separate all your lenses from each other. I just throw my lenses into a little pack sack, throw them into the backpack, have some socks for cushioning. Usually I just throw my lenses into a sock. I really don't care about that crap. You don't need that to be a good photographer or a good videographer. You have to have your gear readily available to you, easy to grab, and to be a no-brainer to take out your gimbal, your gear, your camera, whatever it is. It has to be a no-brainer and not a chore. If it feels like a chore, you don't have the right setup. Also, having a 9-to-5 that pays for an extra room just to film and edit is really, really helpful. Oh, the next one is a good one. Seeing difficulties and obstacles as challenges rather than being disappointed and hopeless and depressed instantly. Do I have to say anything else? I've heard that, I think was it in Huberman Lab, some other podcast. It was about longevity. I think it was one of the criteria of people who reach an old age that they would be less devastated by obstacles and less stressed. Therefore, because there's positive and negative stress, and if you have a lot of negative stress because whenever something comes up, you're like, oh my god, what am I gonna do? This is so horrible. Oh no, I feel like crap. My kid is loud. My husband has lost his job. I'm in debt. My house is moldy. Oh my god, what do I do? And there are these other people, the people you should admire and try to become like them, who are like, my kid is loud, well, I'm just gonna calm down and see what I do about my kid being loud. My husband lost his job? Shit, that sucks. How can I get some money? What can I do? I know that's not always possible. Like, these are extreme examples. Like, sometimes there's just nothing you can do. But the amazing thing is that there are people out there who are still being so positive. These are the people I admire and look up to. I do not look up to people who are like, shit, I lost my job. Now my life is over. I am devastated. I am sad. Can I relate to that? Maybe a little bit. I personally think it's just a job. If you love that job, you made a mistake in your life. Or maybe you didn't, but you didn't choose the right employer. Just if I think about it, if I lost one of my lab jobs and I was like, oh, I really like that lab. If I still be bitter about that 10 years from then, gosh, no, that's a job. That's not my life. I mean, unless you make your job your life and you really enjoy it. But even with YouTube, if I'd make YouTube my life and I'd really like it and just be a full-time creator, which is not something I necessarily want to do. I prefer to be part-time working and part-time a YouTuber, but just imagine it'd be all I do, it'd be really amazing and I'd enjoy it. And then YouTube from one day to the other would just vanish. And I would lose all the ad revenue and I don't know what else is associated with my YouTube presence. That would be exposing me as a single-minded person that had no plan B and made their happiness and their life and their income dependent on one source. I think you should never be that person. And I know how easy it is to say that because I think 80% of humanity at least depend on their jobs like that. And losing your job is the biggest and the most relatable fear that I can think of, other than getting really sick, like that would be number one, and number two would be losing your job, right? So I can 100% understand that. But in my ideal dream world and understanding of life, it shouldn't be. It should always be about you. And you should, like when I lose my job at the lab and I cannot work as a physicist anymore, for instance, just as an example, let's assume I work at a fancy, really cool lab, which I don't, but let's assume I'm not like a code bitch and I'm working at this really nice, adorable, amazing, high-end facility and I'm kicked out because I made a stupid mistake or something like that. So I'm kicked out and I need to find another job, but nobody will take me. Well, I can still always go back to being a nurse. I can still do video content. I can work in a bar if I want. I don't care. I will always find a job. But the thing is that imagine you just have this one thing that you do and you're not even really good at it. And you have not, when you were younger, you didn't spread your wings. You didn't learn many different things So you always have a plan B, and you always just were this plan A person. Like, I'm gonna go through with this and always do this and get highly specialized, and now I have this job and I have to pursue it and I have to be really good at it and I have to deal with a lot of competitors now. That is stressful as heck. So I would concentrate on making that less stressful. Anyway, huge tangent, but that's what podcasts are for. I just wanted to bring attention to this single-mindedness of the idea of a job, of the idea of what it's like to be so much about one thing. And that you should never be, not in real life and not on YouTube. And this all boils down to resilience, which I think is the magic word. Resilience. It means not being a snowflake and being like, well, this person used the wrong pronouns, now I will feel shitty for the rest of the day, and make a post on Instagram about it and whine and tell my mom. Or maybe not, because she's a bigot that doesn't understand. Don't be like that. I don't care if you call me she, he, they, or them. I don't give a fuck. Pronouns are for me, not for you. I take my pronouns whatever, I do whatever with them. I don't need you to acknowledge them. I know what I am. So, be that person. This is just an example, but what else can I think of? It's like not being that person that goes into a froyo shop with an eating disorder and sees that there are diet froyo types and sees that there are diet froyo products and says, hey, let's make an Instagram post about it. How shitty is that? Resilience is one of these lost arts today. People are being less and less resilient and more thin-skinned, if you want to call it that. Being upset about small things and mistakes others make, and about not being treated like a prince or princess. This is just going to make you unhappy and others feel guilty for no reason. Resilience is the thing you want to have. You do not want to waste your precious life energy on little things that can upset you. Is it upsetting if someone cuts me off and maybe it's a little bit of a dangerous situation on the street? Sure. Will I vent about this for 10 minutes straight? No. I'm just like, hey, nothing happened. All right, go, asshole. And then I'm done. At least I try to be that person. I was not that person in the past, and I'm still not always that person, but that's my goal. And especially when it comes to ideology, I think this is just so crucial to not even get into these details. It's a waste of time to me. It keeps me from living my life. I do not obsess about politics, ideology, philosophy. My understanding of life is for me. That's all it is. I don't need to go to other people and make them believe in what I believe in. I don't even get into this kind of stuff anymore. I try to find the people who are like-minded with me and who I can talk to and be honest, have true conversations with. I don't get upset over people who don't get me. I just don't hang out with them anymore. So, yeah, maybe that's a little bit harsh, but dude, I'm almost 40. I don't have time for this crap. I just don't have time for it. I only have time for the important things in life. And one of the important things for me is to be creative, to be a creator, to make stuff, film, to take photos. That has been a huge part of my life for the last years, and I didn't do it enough. I left art school when I was 19, I had art school lessons after school, and it was a huge part of my life, like multiple hours a week to go and paint and prepare. Even with other students, they were all preparing to get into art university. For me, it was just like, no, I'm not going to do that. I want to earn some money. And so, but I was in this whole process, and then it was like a hard cutoff, and I wasn't creative for, 1.5, 2 decades, more or less. I painted eventually sometimes, and I wrote a little bit of music, and I always took photos. I was even working in photography for a bit, but I never got back to that point of creativeness where I was at when I was younger. And I always regretted that, and it's probably why it needs to get out and why I wanted to become a YouTuber so badly. Which brings me to my next point, and that is perfectionism and being driven. In the beginning, I said that too much perfectionism will keep you from reaching your goals, but no perfectionism will also keep you from getting to your goals. And is there good and bad perfectionism? I don't know, honestly. I think that there is only only bad perfectionism, because perfectionism is kind of always bad, and by the definition of most people. But you can turn it around and use it for you in a positive way, if that makes sense. Or you can define it differently, as in doing your best. That's not perfectionism, that is do your bestism, right? It's different. Perfectionism is you want something to be perfect. But what is perfect? 100%? But then you look at somebody else who does it better, who's obviously at what is 120% for you. Like, my eyesight is, 80%. My husband has 110. I can never reach that, not even with glasses. I cannot correct my eyesight to the point that I see as good as him. I never will, and I would never, not in 100 years, get one of these stupid ass surgeries. Fuck no. I've seen too much of ophthalmology in the hospital. I'm not getting one of these eye jobs. Never. So, but back to perfectionism. So for me, I'm a perfectionist, and I am not going to lie about that like many YouTubers do, and they are like talking it down as in, I stopped being a perfectionist, and here's a vulnerable vlog about it. Let me tell you how I left all this toxic perfectionism behind me, and now I'm such a better person, and you can do it too. Just buy my 2,000 euros online course on how to leave perfectionism behind for good. Come to Bali with me. Flight is not included. Right? Yeah. No, I don't leave my perfectionism behind. My perfectionism helps me improve. Just imagine that you would be at the point with your art or craft, and you would say, hey, I am there. I cannot improve anymore. Like, then you're dead. That is the day you die to me. To me, when there is no room above me, that's the day I'm done. That's the day I got dementia. What is that? Can you explain to me what that is? Because I cannot explain that to myself, how that would work. I have not lived a single day in my life with the idea that I am at 100% yet. And there is no such thing in life. Therefore, there cannot be perfectionism, because no human can be perfect. Nobody can know everything. English is my second language. So I will never reach native speaker proficiency in English. And I don't care if I have an accent or not. I know I have one, but I don't care about it. And it's not something I want to improve anymore. I do not want to get to native speaker level with my accent or my vocabulary. Maybe I will still want to improve my vocabulary, but I will not get to native speaker level. Does that mean though that I cannot improve my accent anymore? No, but I will keep it realistic, right? What's my next point? What they all have in common is being nerds. Yeah, that also similar to, like being driven and being a little bit perfectionist. Because being a nerd means diving deep into some knowledge, like filmmaking knowledge, watching a lot of that content, and being really into gear, technical aspects, and how to improve your whole online appearance as a person, how to appear more authentic, be less of a weirdo. And in the beginning of my YouTube journey, I was not talking like this. I was talking much differently. Scroll back on my YouTube channel to my super old videos. They were so cringe, and leaving the cringe behind is harder than you think. Trust me, like most creators have had a cringe phase. And I personally think if I could do YouTube all over again, I would just cut off the cringe phase by doing a bunch of videos that I would just do at home and never upload. I would just do them in my apartment, film myself, talk about some random topic, and never upload those videos. But I kind of missed that phase. I uploaded the videos right away because they were so much work back then when I wasn't good at editing it. So yeah, I just had to. I was not young, but stupid. Admitting that you're stupid and using the word stupid and similar words is also a pretty healthy and adult thing. It's not something immature to say dumb or shitty. It's being honest with yourself. A lot of these Gen Z, or I don't know, people who avoid assigning a value to an emotion and being like, oh, everyone is a winner, and being like, everyone is a winner, everyone is okay, you're good, you are perfect the way you are. All of those people have no drive, in my opinion. I have a drive to be better and to be awesome. I want to be a good creator. I don't want to stay where I am. I don't think I am good the way I am. There's always room for improvement. Does that mean I'm a crappy creator? I don't know. Maybe in 10 years I will look at this video and think like, what bullshit is this? So yeah, maybe I am. I don't know that. And I don't care. I do not even give this time and space. I don't have headspace for this kind of thought, this kind of like outside of this podcast and outside of my YouTube channel, I do not obsess about myself and think about myself. I think about the things I want to do. I think about the things I want to be good at and how to learn from others. I do not think about myself, my body, how I am, if I am good enough or not. I just don't concentrate on that crap. Like, especially stuff like self-love and self-acceptance. Do you think I have to love and accept myself when I'm on like an awesome epic mountain? I just look down, I see the beautiful lake down there, I see the other mountains. I don't think about myself in that kind of situation. That's lame. No, I mean, all the power to you if that's like your topic and you are helping people who have not enough self-love. But for me, my solution is to run away from my problems, do awesome stuff until I get there, and then be okay with myself when I've reached the point that I'm feeling proud of what I've done and myself and being okay with what I do and just loving what I do. And that feeling I get when I create content, that feeling I get when I'm working at my job, developing a new algorithm or something, or a lab setup and it works. That is the feeling that I want. I don't want to think about myself all day. That's just not the kind of person I am. So if you relate to that, get to do stuff. Just get started and just start doing stuff. It'll help. Anyway, my point was that they're all being nerds. So what do I mean by that? Yeah, being into gear a lot and just obsessing over a topic. I think that's a huge part of what makes good creators great. Let's get back to examples like, I don't know, Casey Neistat or Peter McKinnon. Casey Neistat is considered a filmmaker by most people, right? Because he has reached the level of a filmmaker without ever going to film school. And this guy, he draws you in with his stories, right? And his style was unique and revolutionized YouTube. His fast-paced vlog style and even the sit-down parts he did weren't boring. You could listen to this guy for, I don't know, half an hour. It was relaxing but also interesting. So that is something I've always been looking up to, and similar creators as well. And I do believe that all these creators are just huge nerds. Photo nerds. Technology nerds. Are they professional developers? Do they really understand how cameras work? Well, some of them, like most, I would say probably not. It's actually a really, really cool thing to learn. Anyway, I think if you're a nerd, you have it so much easier today in the creator economy, analyzing statistics, understanding mathematics, understanding technology and gear. It has made my life very easy as a creator. I didn't have to learn anything about how to use a camera when I started. I mean, I came from photography, which was way different from videography, you wouldn't think, but it actually was. So at first it was a little bit of a struggle, especially with the lighting for me, because like movement and bad lighting are not a good mix, but I got over that, like as far as is possible. Just look at the first podcast episode. It was badly lit, but I didn't have any lighting with me. I was on vacation. I'm still on vacation in this podcast as well. But today, daylight. First episode, no daylight. See the difference? So, and yeah, just being a giant nerd made it very, very easy for me to understand what my camera does, to program my camera right, to use all the settings, you know. And I think so many people just don't make use of their awesome equipment. They get a $1,000 or $2,000 setup, and then what they do with it, basic shit, shoot in auto or aperture priority. Duh. Don't do that. Just, I mean, yeah, no, nothing wrong with aperture priority if you got the other margins right, but this is so much more. There's also so much more than manual mode. Don't brag about using manual mode all the time. Manual mode is only cool until you have to be super fast. So, anyway, okay, next one is a long one. I'm just gonna read this out because I probably thought something when I was writing this down. So, what do successful influencers have in common? They do not binge watch creator coaches channels and attend courses for several $1,000s. They invest that money in gear instead, in connections, travel, and hard skills rather than soft skills, and strategizing over practical stuff you have to learn while getting your hands dirty anyway. Okay, I don't. Do I have to elaborate on this? Okay, let's elaborate on it a little bit. I mean, it's a podcast. I do not believe in influencer coaches. Unless you're not a nerd, you're a total noob, and you're a small business maybe, and you kind of just need all this knowledge in one place because you are incapable of Googling. But dude, if you have found this podcast, you're not that person. If you are a driven person like me, you don't want to be that person. You want to be that person who says, well, that 500, 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 bucks that I could invest in that course, I could just not spend that money. Use it for gear and learn all that stuff that is readily available on the internet already for free. Because the difference between some stupid creator class and, just getting knowledge for free, the only difference is that the creator course will have it all in one place and well structured, and so that you can look it up and rewatch it. And dude, you can do that with playlists on YouTube. You can make your own playlists of that. Does it take half a year of research? Yeah, maybe, but you will learn on the go anyway, right? Because you're not listening to my advice, you're not making like 10 videos before you start YouTube and throwing away at least 5 of them because they're crap, and then start publishing and, have a huge backlog of videos that are already waiting to be published, so you don't get stressed out because you need to publish every week or at least every other week. You're not listening to my advice anyway, am I right? You want to start right away, so you're starting on your phone camera because you're not listening to me, you're not saving up for a good camera. All right, well then you can also watch that kind of course like coach content on the go. You don't have to buy a course, okay? And if you're a procrastinator, you're probably not sticking to that course anyway. So watch the digestible stuff, put it on a playlist, watch it over and over, and immerse yourself into that knowledge. That'll be good enough for you. There will not be much new knowledge in courses. I think there might be stuff like, networking tips and how to make a media kit and brand deals and stuff. But if you want to know how to make a media kit, just copy one from Etsy. It costs like $9 or download it, pay for it if you don't have the skills to make one yourself in the free software called Inkscape that I talked about in episode number 2, I think. If you have a problem with making a basic PDF, read up on that before you do anything else. You're not a boomer. You're supposed to know and understand that stuff and learn it within like a few days. If you're not a boomer, there are no excuses. Not on my channel. So I think this is a waste of money, and the money is better invested in a nice camera, a nice tripod, and maybe even a gimbal if you are doing outdoor shots with a lot of movement or landscape stuff, stuff like that. Or it's better invested in your education. If you want to take a course, why wouldn't you take a course solely on video editing and become a professional editor? That at least gives you real life job options in the real world. Learn a hard skill like editing or programming or both. Take some university course like that, or some other course that is available to you in your country. Use that money, study, get a job. You will still have the time to do YouTube, but you will end up being an educated person and not just some rando YouTuber. And also, all the stuff that I learned while becoming a nurse, working as a nurse, becoming a physicist, working as a physicist, that stories, I could fill days and weeks with just stupid physicist stories. I could make a whole other YouTube channel just about that. If you have nothing to talk about, get an education, and you will. If you are in a country that doesn't offer a free education, go to another country that does. There are no excuses. I mean, there are sometimes excuses. If you are part of the 1% miserable people that have no options and cannot get out of their country, I feel for you. I cannot understand your situation, but most people, if you have YouTube available to you and all this stuff and all this technology, and you have the option to learn and to become a programmer or to become some other professional person, I understand that there are reasons that make it impossible to do something. But I think there are more excuses than reasons for most people. And I'm just not having any of it. I'm not having any of it with myself, so I'm not going to have any of it with anyone else. That were a lot of any's. But back to this whole courses thing. Last sentence that I wrote on my notepad here is Casey Neistat didn't sit down and create a target audience avatar. You know what a target audience avatar is? You know what a target audience is? Like the people you want to target with your content. So probably the thing you don't know what it is. Like me, who am I creating content for? I have no idea because I don't watch content. I mean, sometimes I watch like a gear review on a camera, and then I watch like 5 different or 10 different gear reviews to find out what are like the critical points, the stuff that might annoy me about this camera. Probably chances are you are not going to find out from a gear review anyway, so better order that camera, check it out really, really fast, open it in a way that you can close it back, like don't destroy any seals, and you can send it back. That's what I did with my first Sony Alpha. I didn't like it, didn't have stabilization. I was stupid and didn't research it in advance because I was in Sweden. I needed a new camera fast, and I just ordered one to the place where I stayed at. And so I made a mistake, ordered the wrong camera basically, and I had to order a new one. But that way I could test it, I could see, I like the look and feel, but I don't like this and that. So I'm gonna send it back and get a model that costs a few $100 more, but is totally worth it. That kind of stuff you will not get in a review, and I did not get that in a review. And that's just, I don't know, that's just how it is. But the point is, I do not know what it feels like to be a viewer and not be a creator. And I assume that a lot of creators also do not know what it's like to solely consume content and never even think about creating content. Even when I watch stories from people who follow me sometimes, and I go on Instagram, I watch their stories, and I think like, this is just all a bunch of everyday stuff that I'm not interested in. I'm watching this because this is my in-law and I want to see what they're up to. Are they going to the zoo today with their kids? Oh, they did. Oh, a bunch of lame animal pics. Okay, next. I am not consuming any content, even from like big creators. I like their posts to support them, but I'm completely uninterested in most of this stuff. Maybe it's because I'm older and I didn't grow up with this, but usually I like to go to a gallery to see art and just see it on a big, broad canvas or a big, fat, awesome kind of printing paper or some other huge surface. I'm not interested in looking at tiny photos on my phone. It just hurts my eyes and it gets annoying after 5 photos. So I saw 5 epic photos and then I'm like, well, I should get off the pot, or, oh, I should cook dinner, or I should live my life. It just doesn't feel right to waste money on a phone, and I'm much more interested in filming video than watching video. So maybe this goes to the saying of create more than you consume, but I also think that, when I do research on topics, I do consume content, right? When I watch vlogs, I never just watch them as a consumer. I watch them as in, how does Jonna Jinton film this landscape and why does it produce this or that feeling? But also, if you obsess over it too much, you will not be creative anymore. It will not come out of you. It will be inspired by others. And I don't want to be that either, which is when I was making a lot of minimalism content, which I kind of still do sometimes, I was confronted with a problem that I tried to do similar videos to other people. And I was watching these videos and thinking like, this is a really good idea. I'm gonna do my personal own take on this, because that way it'll still be individual, right? So I don't know. I think I betrayed my roots when I did that. As in, I would always look up to short filmmakers, because short film is just a genre that I really admire and I see as a beautiful art. And when I look back at, the kid that I was back in the art school days when I was younger, and I was like, oh, I admire this short film producer, I want to go to that film festival and stuff like that, and oh, I could never film a movie, like a real movie. That is insane. I cannot do that. And today everybody is a YouTuber and everyone thinks they're a filmmaker. But I look at my content and I think, that's not filmmaking, that's just filming. And I want to get back and connect with my roots again of admiring art. And I want to create beauty. And I think that what all successful influencers, at least in the cinematic or vlogging niche, have in common is that they have this artsy view and they just need to get their creativity out or their opinion, or, like even phrasing something in a certain way is artsy. Like a writer, but talking. Like, talking is an art to me, especially as a non-native speaker. That's like, it's something difficult that I want to master. So when I wrote the sentence, Casey Neistat didn't sit down and create a target audience avatar. What I meant is, I assume that he didn't take a professional creator course on how to become an influencer. He just did it. He just did what he liked and shared it with other people and was genuine about it, which made him authentic, cool, and chill. So isn't that the secret? How is it a secret to attend some course and hustle and put in the work? How is it a great tip to say, just take this course and then put in the work and hustle and blah, blah, blah? Well, then put in the work and hustle is the secret, and not taking the course. And I think that a lot of people who take these expensive courses and they get successful, it's not because of the course, it's because the course is holding them accountable. If you need that and that works for you, for me it wouldn't work. I'm a procrastinator, and the extra pressure would just make me fall into a huge hole of anxiety, and it would just paralyze me. So it wouldn't work for me. But if you are the kind of person that stuff works for, all the power to you. Okay, then you buy that course. I still think, like, in 99% of cases, unless you're a complete boomer or noob or just you just hate technical stuff, like hate it more than getting surgery, well, in that case, sure. But the 99% of other people, you can put in the work and learn stuff for free and take that money and buy gear from it, because that's a better investment of your money. Like, even just taking that money, taking a class to become a programmer, or if you're living in Europe and it means like you can afford university from that kind of money, you just like get a day job, be a waiter or something, and the other 20 hours of the week you go to university and become something. It'll still give you more opportunities than such a course will, because you are learning a skill, but you are not acquiring substance. Like, if you go to university and become a physicist or something, that'll give you stories, that'll give you things and experiences and hardship. Just learning a skill won't do that. Learning a skill is just learning a skill. Going to university and getting an education, that is a life-changing journey. I don't think that taking a few weeks of a course is the same thing as that, and I would always put in money in my education rather than in soft skills, Like, I just don't believe in these soft skill courses. I think that is so basic, you should be able to learn that yourself. And that is, like, if you invest in education, invest in real hardcore university education instead. Save that money up for that, and then you have something to talk about. Then you have a life, at least something interesting. And I personally just don't get it. But that's because I'm an academic, and I would never in 100 years I wouldn't go back and choose to not go to university, and just I would not come out of school and be like, oh, I want to become an influencer and that's the only skill I will acquire, and I just life is just traveling and I'm just gonna make all this shallow content out of thin air just about me cruising around without ever having done anything hard and anything of substance. I'm not saying that being an influencer and being successful isn't hard, but substance to me is something completely different from beauty. And if there is no substance below your beauty isn't worth shit, in my opinion. Like, I respect a yoga teacher more when she comes from the background of being a geologist. Actually, my yoga teacher was a geologist, and she said, I was so unhappy with my job, that is why I became a yoga teacher. And that person has so many interesting life lessons, so many more than the 20-year-old yoga teacher just came out of school and became a yoga teacher right away. What does she have to teach me? Maybe she's an old soul and she has some wisdom somewhere. I don't know. I personally would be more interested in the life story of the yoga teacher that had 3 jobs before, had to raise 2 kids while getting herself through university, getting divorced, that kind of story. Way more interesting than the child that just came out of school and became an influencer. That bores me, and I don't want to be that person. So that not so straight path of going from doing something to doing something completely different, pivoting, changing your life, living your dream. How can you have a dream without before that being a little bit unhappy, right? How can you be melancholic and deep without ever having to deal with anything. This kind of personality makes people like Casey Neistat interesting because he shows struggles as well as happy times, and he shows how hard it was to actually become a filmmaker. And so that is what makes him relatable to somebody like me, and I think a lot of other people. If he was just a kid who came out of school and just became successful right away, I think that would be boring. And I don't think he would be where he is right now if he had been that. So, but there are people who certainly did that and are successful anyways, like, I don't know, Logan Paul. Because there's a lot of shallow viewers out there who don't care. But I think like long term, still the other one is also always going to be more intriguing. Anyway, I'm not saying that I am so interesting, but I'm saying that I look at my life, I look back at my life, and I would not choose it a different way just because then I could have started younger and all that kind of stuff. You know, I would not change it just because it would be easier then. I think it being hard makes it what it is. And back to my last talking point, back to these classes and learning experiences. The point that I want to make here is that probably any real life learning experience is the better learning experience. It doesn't matter if it's university education or some other education, but working in a job really changes you for a while. Like working in a job or just being in university, but doing something that is hard for you and it takes up a lot of your time, that really changes you and matures you. So I would honestly recommend that to anyone over some stupid course, let alone that it's a waste of money and that you can use that money just to travel. And then you have content. Like, if you have $3,000, travel from that money. I mean, you can buy an Interrail ticket here in Europe, travel all Europe, and just sleep in the train, you know, that like, it's stupid to waste that money on a course. And I will never understand that. So anyway, thank you for listening to the podcast. Check me out on Instagram at Undina Almani for updates on new podcast episodes. Check my, if you're on YouTube, then if you want to watch more of these videos, I would be happy if you subscribe to my channel. That supports me. Liking videos also helps out the channel. I'm always really happy when people do that. If you're watching this on YouTube, then maybe consider hitting the subscribe button in the face or also kicking the like button in the ass. That also helps out my channel. So that's it.